Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second session of Connection to the Promise Bible Study. I'm your host for tonight, Jason Wilson, also known as JW the Wingman. And so last week, our subject was the supernatural qualities of God. And we're going to give you a recap on that. But just to give you an intro for tonight's subject for tonight, we're going to be talking about the order and purpose of marriage tonight. And this is inspired by, all the negatives that we've seen in social media and every place else when it comes to relationships. And we are actually in the midst of an epidemic of loneliness that's global right now and affecting everybody all over the world. And, Jeremy Preston, the host of Kali Culture Podcast, last weekend, we had an in-depth conversation on our perspectives on what's causing this from a spiritual standpoint. And we're going to actually follow up with that tonight. I have a panel of guests, and we're going to get everybody's perspective on that, as well as some guests in the audience. So this is going to be action-packed, fun-filled, and a great conversation for tonight. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce everybody on our panel for tonight. So we have Paul Kirk Clayton. He's a minister. Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Paul Kirk Clayton from Sulphur Springs, Texas, and I was married for 20 years. My wife died of breast cancer. We was together for 23 years. So I'm here on behalf of Brother Wilson. He offered me the invitation, so I had to step on in with my big feet and go on and show my face. How y'all doing?
All right. Welcome. Jeremy Preston, the host of Kali Culture Podcast. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks, Jason, for having me on the show. Obviously, first of all, I appreciate you bringing all of us together. This is an interesting, unique panel. There's going to be some great conversation. But myself, I'm Jeremy Preston. Currently live in Augusta, Georgia. I would say my second home is Cali, Colombia. And I'm originally from Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi. I'm an engineer, motivational speaker, a trained martial arts, coach martial arts, written a financial literacy book. God's blessed me to do a lot of things. And as long as I have a pulse, I want to continue to inspire, uplift, and motivate.
Excellent. And last, but actually not the least, but the greatest here on the panel, Miss Christine Bailey. She's an author. Go ahead and introduce yourself, my friend.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Bailey. Recently divorced after 20 years. And I am getting reconnected, I would say, with myself first and foremost, and having God to lead, direct, correct, and guide me every step of the way. I am a 2-time author of inspirational books, No God, No Peace, No God, No Peace, Mustard Seed Faith to Unshakable Faith, and I am the proud co-host of Christine's Faith Over Fear podcast. Nice to meet each and every one of you all.
Amen. All right. So, as I mentioned before, tonight's title of this conversation is The Purpose of Marriage. So, I just want to recap real quick some verses that we were going through last week. And so we're going to start with Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27. So that reads, "So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them." So what this is saying is that God created the male and female spirit at the same time, which lays the foundation for the premise that we have a soulmate, y'all. We were not created alone in this world. And so, what the enemy tries to do is he tries to pervert everything that God set up in that first chapter of Genesis. So, I'm making it my business, and I'm sure all of you feel the same way. Is that over the course of this Bible study, we're going to actually take this all the way through December the 8th, ladies and gentlemen. That will be the last session of our Bible study for this year, and we're going to actually restart in January. But from now until December the 8th, this is actually the season of restoration. So, God is going to be working really, really hard to bring some restoration to people's lives in that particular area of relationships, and also connecting us to our soulmates in this season as well. So, we're going to see some wonderful things come about. And we're actually going to go over a goal that we're going to actually enact for tonight. And we're going to go over those goals in the next session next week. So I have some good stuff for y'all. But let's start with, let's continue with the 28th verse of chapter 1 in Genesis. And so after he created the male and female spirit, he blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number." So, in other words, God used his supernatural ability and power to speak something and create something in the lives of those two spirits that he created, the male and the female. So, what is this telling us here in this verse? That, he has blessings for the soulmate couple, the male and the female. That's what our relationships are supposed to be like. They're supposed to be blessed, fruitful, successful. I'll never forget, a pastor told me one time in a marriage counseling session, he said, "Jason, there should be increase in your relationship with your wife every single year." And if there's not, ladies and gentlemen, if you find yourself in a long-term relationship, or it could be a short-term relationship that you have with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and you notice like some fluctuation with your finances or your health or any other area in which God has blessings for us, something's wrong with that picture. And definitely in a marriage, there should be increase in that relationship every single year. If we take a look at the lives of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, every single year there was increase. And Joseph was in jail, y'all. And every year that he was in jail, he was actually favored every single year more and more that he was behind bars. So, it doesn't matter what your circumstances are in life, you should be receiving increase by God. And so, getting back to, what we're seeing right now in people's relationships, people are using this supernatural ability that they have in using their power to speak something and create something. We're cursing each other, downgrading each other, downgrading men, downgrading the females on social media and every place else. And so we're actually doing the thing that the enemy wants us to do. We're cursing each other, y'all, destroying each other's relationships. And listen, before any demonic spirit manifests anything in our lives, he actually has to use our creative power against us by giving us negative suggestions in our minds. And so what we do with those negative suggestions is we speak those things and we create that situation. So, Paul, what do you have to say on that subject?
Okay, it says the word became flesh, so it was word first. So every word in that Bible describes who Jesus Christ is. So that's how we know who we are. That's why he says season your words with salt, because when you do that, you're going to start putting up boundaries in what you allow into your life and what you don't. And I turn to this scripture. It says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. The problem, we don't love ourselves, and we try to love others, and we pour from an empty cup, and we think we finna help somebody when we're just draining our energy. We supposed to give from the overflow. So I tell people, look after yourself first, start loving yourself, and then you'll know what you will want around you. So at the end of the day, I think it's on us because we don't really find out who we are before we go trying to pull somebody on our wagon, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely right. Christine.
Just to kind of reiterate what Paul was saying, I learned in my marriage that, a person cannot give what they do not have. So, if you grew up like my ex husband's childhood was very hard and very rough. And so he did not know how to show love or how to express love because it was not shown in his family. And even
Mm,
right today, it's very rare that you hear them say, I love you. It's very rare for them to embrace you with a hug. That's just how they were all, that's how they were all raised. And it's just
mm,
really sad because I wasn't used to that because I'm the complete opposite, because my mom and dad showed unconditional love, and they told us how much they loved us, they showed
Mm.
us. And he is, the opposite. And so it just really made it hard in our marriage
Yes, Lord.
because he didn't know how to show it and he didn't know how to accept it.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy, what you got to say on this subject?
A lot to say. So I want to piggyback actually on what Christine said because it is 100% true that your childhood sometimes can affect. You can bring things in from your childhood, and that can affect your relationship or marriage. A lot of times, if, for example, I take myself now. When I introduce myself, I guess I failed to mention. So I am single, never been married, no children. And I look back on things. It's been just recently, you kind of do a self assessment, right? And I look back on things and I remember parents always argue. They never were in cohesion. So
Mm,
over time, when I was 20, if I'm gonna be transparent and honest, I never believed that it could work. As a 20-year-old man, I never believed that marriage could work. And I even took that
mm,
into my 30s. It just so when I got in my like late 30s and early 40s, when God got a hold of me, it's like, son, I can do anything I want to. I ordained marriage for the purpose of strengthening people, the purpose of strengthening the church. And so I was just reading a statistic as Christine was sharing information that 47% of marriages work nowadays. I'm just reading that, and I think a lot of it again is you're taking that fear, as we talked about Jason on my podcast, and we're
yeah.
taking maybe a little bit of trauma from your childhood. And it's like, well, I don't want to go through that. My parents were always arguing. My parents were they never were together. They never loved each other, and you're letting that drive you from not fulfilling the purposes of what we were just reading in Genesis. So I think that's
Mm,
a big part of it. It's a big part of it that, as Christine indicated, sometimes you got to deal with those things from your childhood in order to be successful as an adult, in order to have good relationships and relationships that last.
And that's
yeah.
I'm gonna piggyback on what you said. You hear the words that was coming out of your mouth, like it's gonna be you throwing them curses at yourself.
Hmm.
Start bringing that up. So
Right.
God tell you to wait. He said, wait patiently in the Lord. So sit down in Him and start purifying your heart. That way, when you start speaking, it'll be seasoned with salt. Like I was saying, you can build from there. But until you overcome your fears of self, you're gonna be stuck in the mud because a lot of times we want to dim our lights and we don't
Hmm.
want to show
Mm,
people who we really are. But in the scripture, he said, let your light shine. He never said dim it or do anything of that nature. But the world would teach you that you too much and that you, hey, I can't be around you because you do way too much. No, you do just enough and they do too little. That's what that is. And you rub their demons. So the world have to realize that the gift is always in that heart. Until they tie that up, they not gonna find that right one because God not gonna release it to them. because they're gonna tear that relationship up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Let me add something to that too. You know,
Mhm.
in my growing phase, and I'm so glad God didn't bring that perfect rib, if you will, for me, because I would have messed that up. There's no doubt about it. Clayton, I would have messed that up 100%. And and
Mm.
uh, and it sometimes is good those paths don't cross because
You
you gotta
you
grow a little bit.
you can call me Kirk, brother.
Okay.
I do Kirk Minute Ministries, but it's Go Get It University because at the end of the day, it ain't gonna go get itself. So I say, we get up every day, and I tell my kids, I got 3 kids. They ain't kids. My youngest 17. I said, if you wake up, it's a choice that you make to be angry or be sad. It's
Hmm.
up to you to let that in your heart. The Bible saying, Proverbs 4:23, guard your heart over everything else. It determines the course of your life. So at the end of the day, guard that heart because that's where he stayed. That's the Garden of Eden. I tell people, when you get that right, you can build and become a King David on this earth. Yes, Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Mike, you want to come up? Okay.
Sure. Well, I think you get yourself in trouble, you dig yourself a hole, and I think that there's some times when you need to say the right things to people and kind of shine your own light and just kind of depends on the subject too. I mean, we're getting into politics and world matters and things like that people can take it the wrong way, and it's really challenging to deal with certain people that have a certain mindset. I know that there's a lot of division these days, and it's hard. It's really hard. There's a lot of things that we're divided on, and I think it's maybe on purpose or whatever. I think the devil's coming in and trying to sabotage us all and put us in against each other, and God clearly doesn't want that, of course. So I think there's a lot of world events going on right now, a lot of things going on in the world that are affecting us in a negative way. But again, we have Jesus, we have God, we have our faith, and I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic by nature. I think God planned it that way. I've always looked at the glass half full type of man, and I don't want to look at negative things. I've dealt with some negative things in my life, and I've learned how to deal with some of those things. But I went through a divorce as well, and after 17 years of marriage from a high school sweetheart, we just didn't grow the same. I think that. I can get into some details, but of course, with me playing in the NFL, I think she got a little jealous and things like that, and we became like enemies. Like she was not my partner in crime anymore. She was kind of like my competition, in other words. So even that is an example of how the devil has put us against each other. And she lost respect for me somehow, somewhere along the road, and I don't know why, but here I am. So I'm single as well, but enjoying life, and I love helping others. That's my main goal.
Hi, I'm Yvette Liel.
I'm Gabe. Nice to meet everybody. Nice to meet everybody on the panel. So,
Yes.
love what you guys have been saying. I love what everybody's been sharing. One of the things that I will add is that being that we are a married couple, being that we are, we look at each other as equally yoked. We are, somebody that actually loves, respects, and unconditionally gives to one another. We've come from our brokenness from our past. Yes, I am divorced. She was divorced as well. So having those experiences and kind of like what Paul was saying in the beginning, loving yourself was key to really shifting how I went about looking for somebody to bring into my life. And I had to learn to love myself all over again, what that was for me foundationally, so that when I was ready to find, like what you said, that perfect rib, it showed up. So that's kind of, me in a nutshell. So what about you, my love?
Well, I felt like I could resonate with all three of you guys that were speaking, especially like Paul. I mean, you nailed it. Like that's one of the things that we've talked about on our show is it all starts with love. Like, and our show is called Unwrap Love, but it starts with love, and you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else. And when you're trying to seek happiness in others or trying to find that perfect person, it's never going to happen. And I think that for me, especially like when I decided to love myself, get back into the church, love God, put Him at the center of my life, that's when someone saw me. And I think for a long time, like I would go from relationship to relationship, and a lot of it, like both Christine and Jeremy touched on, when it, how we were raised impacts our future, and we carry that into relationships. And I was probably about 8 or 9 years old when my parents like took all three, me and my two other siblings, and said, we're separating. We are getting a divorce. Like, how do you guys feel? And the thing I thought was, if I ever get into a relationship, if I ever get married, I will never separate. I will be with them till the end. And when I had my first relationship with a man who became the father of my first child, he was physically abusive. And I made that, because I made that decision as a child, I'm never going to let this relationship fall apart. That's what kept me in that abusive relationship. And I kept forgiving him over and over and over again because I felt like it was up to me to keep us together. So the things that we go through as children, not realizing it, a lot of times we do bring that into those relationships. And every relationship after that I had was continuing to carry that mentality. So a lot of times I wasn't the one that ended the relationship, they were. Now in the first relationship I did in that one because I got pregnant and I wanted to protect my child. But in the other ones, like sometimes I would put up with things for so long, I was like, as long as they didn't hit me. As long as they didn't hit me, I'd be okay. But I was never completely 100% happy. But it wasn't until I decided I don't want to be with anybody anymore. I don't want to be married.
Right.
I don't. I might talk to people as friends, but I'm not going to be married. It's not for me. It's not in my cards. After my divorce, I was like, I'm done. Like that's it. And when me and Gabe first met, like that was one of the things that he asked me was like, would you want to get married one day? And in my mind, before him, I was like, hell no, I'm not going to get married again. No, that's not going to happen. But
Yeah.
when he said that, I was like, it made me, it stop. I stopped and I thought about it and I said, you know what? It would have to take the right person, because if it's not, I will definitely never get married. And he was like, okay. And so we just kept talking, and 2 weeks later, he was the right person. So, he said he loves me, and I don't know, I just felt like that.
God
God
had other plans. He's like, child, just wait.
And he's been the only man out of every relationship I've ever been with. He's been the only man that like I can say anything to, and I'm not afraid. I'm myself. Like I'm completely authentic. What I say to him, I can say to my friends, and I can say to my friends, I can say to him. Like he's my best friend. He's my husband. He's the other side, and he is my soulmate. Like I feel like we've grow every day, and some of the things that you were saying like are true, like to be fruitful and to give back. And we do that, like we do that at church and in our community and online when we have the chance. And now, like, I never thought I'd be an author. He never thought he'd be an author, and now he's co-authored 3 books and I've co-authored 1. So like we've both done things that we always kind of inside wanted to do, but when we came together, we've been able to accomplish them.
Yes.
So.
Wow, that is beautiful. And one of the things that is really, really destructive in relationships too. Is that like Yvette was sharing that, she can share anything with her husband and vice versa. I think it's a huge problem, especially if it's a guy. You can't share what's going on in your personal life with your wife and vice versa. I mean, that's a huge problem. And it actually opens the door for extramarital relationships to happen as well.
Can I say something, brother?
Yeah.
Okay, I won't say this. It's the upbringing. Sometimes for the kids, it go back to like what brother was saying, the upbringing of youth, because sometimes the mothers will tell the young boys to suck it up all through their youth age, and then when they get married, the wife want to know why he don't open up because he's been trained to suck it up.
Mm,
But then you want me to put on these magic sticks and switch my heart over and open up. But if you train a child when they're young to open up to mama, he'll do that to his wife. And I believe in that repetition every day. And I think things will
mm.
fall in the line. But I think that's a big problem right there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, what we saw in chapter 1 of Genesis was the creation of the spirit of the man and the woman. Now we're going to get to the body in chapter 2. So, starting here at Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Then the Lord formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. Continuing on at verse 15 and 16, the Lord took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it, which tells us that, yes, we do have work to do. We as men, we should not be depending on our ladies to do our job for us. I mean, we should be leading in that department, right? And the Lord commanded the man, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden." And continuing with Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. Then the Lord said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him," which tells us that, we're not supposed to be with just anybody. God has somebody suitable for us. And, where the problem comes in as well, we don't have the patience to wait on that person. We take it into our own hands to go and look for this person. And 9 times out of 10, we're going to run into somebody that is not suitable. And they're, completely the wrong person for us. How many parents we got here on the panel and in the audience? Oh, a lot of us. Okay. All right. So let's say that your daughter or your son starts dating somebody that you don't agree with. I mean, that this is not the right person for your son or daughter. Are you in agreement with this? I mean, how do you feel about that? Christine?
Oh boy. Yeah, we have a total of 5 kids altogether, 2 girls. But my daughter, my biological, she was in an abusive relationship right after she got out of high school. And she was determined that she was going to move with him to where he's originally from. And I remember just feeling something in my spirit that I knew was not right about the young man. And I don't know, people may say it was mother's intuition. I don't know, but I know it just didn't feel right. And I tried my best to talk her out of going. But she was determined, that she was going to move with him. And she did. And within a month's time, she was sleeping outdoors in his shed.
What?
And yeah, and when I found out about it, I was, I don't even think livid is the word that I could use, because I'm thinking, how do you treat another human being like this? And
Mm-hmm.
I told him before they left, I said, please, do not mistreat my daughter. Are you going to see a side of me that you do not want to see? And you're not going to like her dad very well either. Well, we had to end up getting the sheriff's department involved to get her because he had taken her phone away from her so I could not contact her.
Mm.
And it was a struggle. And when we got her back home safely, she was beaten, she was tattered, she
Mm.
was filthy. I had never seen my child look like that in all the years that she's been, a part of us. And so it was really hard. And I just tried to explain to her that when I tried to tell you something, it's not me trying to run your life, but when I feel something and I notice something, I could tell the way he clung to her when she was just around us. I mean, if she would come in the bedroom and want to talk to me, he would come in the bedroom too. He wouldn't knock on the door, he would just bust through the door,
Mm.
and so I just tried to explain to her that, respect goes both ways, but we need to be really careful when we're trying to be in a relationship with someone. And we have to be really aware of the red flags because there were red flags when they were in high school that I found out about after the fact. He was actually beating my child in high school,
Oh.
and I didn't find out until after the fact. So, yeah.
Mm. Okay, Paul, you have what? How many kids do you have, Paul?
I have three. One she finna be 25, my oldest, Aaliyah, and my son will be 20 this year, and my youngest daughter will be 18. So with me, okay, the Bible said get peace and maintain it. For me to do that, I gotta trust that I raised my kids right. Now, if I
Mm.
see something I don't like, I grab them to the side, throw a few gems out there. Now, kind of like her daughter, you go out there, you might get hit. You see what I mean? Kind of like the prodigal son, and
Yeah.
it's not gonna look pretty. It's not, but it's for our learning. But at the end of the day, you just have to let them be who they're gonna be and trust God gonna protect them and let them
Mm.
go out there. Sometimes you touch that stove, you find out it's hot, you won't touch it no more. You will listen to them gems and thank God for the parents you have. But sometimes you gotta go let them go out there and get burned, kind of like us. It's no different. It's no different. We did the same thing with our parents. So sometimes we gotta back up and let kids grow up a little bit. Just be there to kind of shelter them. If they fall, like be there to kind of pick them up. But yeah, sometimes let them go out there and put them soldier shoes on and figure it out. They'll be okay.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
learned real quick. She
Yes,
learned real
Lord.
quick.
Yeah,
So,
hey,
yeah.
and ain't nothing gonna turn her around again. Hey, that
No,
forgiveness, like I tell, is for her because she
yeah.
won't never let herself down like that again. And she'll forgive that person for just being raggedy. And God is working on that baby. So at the end of the day, all things work together and tell her to keep pushing. She's gonna be
Yeah.
fine. Yes,
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeremy, what are your feelings on this?
So I think I don't have the perspective of a parent. I don't have children, but I will say I do have a niece, and it's one of those things. It's definitely true that sometimes you have to just go through a bad situation, but and coming out of that bad situation, you have to you you have to get back right with God, and you have to ask Him to help you to make the right decision moving forward. Because the worst thing that I think could be done is, you leave that bad situation and then you repeat that because you haven't worked on yourself. And I've
Mm.
certainly seen that. And I tell you, I can give you a story about when I was in my 30s. I met this beautiful young lady from Philly, and she was, I mean, overall a great girlfriend. But what it came down to is she had some stuff in her past. She had a guy that she was dealing with before me that, same thing, mistreated her, put his hands on her. And so now it was, she couldn't understand that I was a good guy, that I would never would need to do stuff like that and go and cheat on her and all of that. She just couldn't understand it. So basically, what happened was it became it became a little too much to a point where I felt like I was doing the time for somebody else's crime, and
Mm.
obviously it didn't work out. So you really have to, when you get out of those bad situations, you have to get time to heal, get time to get right, get back in the Word, get back in the gym, and work on yourself. Then you find that significant other. Because the worst thing you could do is you find a good person, good man or woman, and then you have that trauma you're still dealing with, and you bring that
Yeah.
trauma, and it
And
becomes it starts as a small little snowball, and then it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger to the bowl.
Yes.
And sometimes we have that Superman, and the women have the Wonder Woman complex, where they think they're gonna save this person. Like, I
Hmm.
know they
Mm.
different, but I can save them. They think they got Jesus all over them. Where they going? But you got to save yourself first. So at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I
Yeah.
tell people, don't look at their potential. Look at what it is in front of you, because that's what it's gonna be at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. Because
That's
my
a
daughter
good point.
she had to end up going to counseling, and I'm glad that's something that she decided she wanted to do. I didn't ask her to do that. So she ended up going through counseling, and then, her relationship got stronger in Christ as well. So
Hmm.
now, she's a completely, totally different person. So yeah, it makes a big difference. It really does. Because if you don't get the help for it, it's just gonna stay festered off in there, and then the next person is gonna pay for it.
Hmm.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, I
All
did want
right.
to
Let's
say
hear from.
something real quick,
Sure.
Jason, just to add something.
Sure.
We do have, a particular in America, a domestic violence problem. I grew up around this, and I grew up in a household with just domestic violence, and I think it
Mm.
is worth just calling it out. It is a problem. It is something that needs to be addressed. We as prayer warriors need to pray
Yes.
about the situation more, because there's a lot of women that are going through in these households. You never know unless you know. And
Yes.
on the
Right.
flip side too, there's a lot of men that literally are
Yeah.
going
What
through.
go and the biggest thing with you, what go on in this house, stay in this house, is what they say.
Right.
And
Yeah.
kids go to school. I was one of them kids. Went to school after seeing guns being drawn, black
Yep.
eyes, and got
Yep.
to go to school and put on a show and
Right.
act like everything okay, because everything ain't okay, and that's hard on the child. I'm gonna tell
It
you, and it
is.
do something to them. So at the end of the day, that's why we must love everybody, because you don't know what that next person
right.
going through. That's why
That's right.
my brother put a bullet through his heart, and I was there when he died, right
Mhm.
there with him. So at the end of the day, we
Mm.
don't never know what these babies going through. We just got to be a loving instrument to help them out through the next day, because at the end of the day, all we got is today, and hopefully we get to see the sun set, is what I always say. So
Mm.
Where I live at here, Jeremy, there is a lot of it in the schools
Mhm.
that parents are unaware of. Now, when my daughter was in her junior year, one of her best friends was getting abused by her boyfriend. My daughter went and told her friend's mother, who did not believe it. A week later, the young man killed her daughter.
Oh.
And it traumatized my daughter. I'm pretty sure, over a year. I know, because that's all Kayla could see. And she kept asking me, Mom, why did she believe me? Why did her mom not believe me when I told her that she was being abused by her boyfriend? And
mhm.
so, I mean, it's really bad in our school systems here.
Yes,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's the truth.
yes, it
Okay.
is.
Let's hear from Gabe and Yvette.
Oh, that
Hi.
was quick.
So what would you like us to address? The
So
children part? We started with the kid part.
we got children.
Mm, Um, well, her first relationship, I think I kind of just stepped back and allowed her to, because I talked to her about everything. Like any question she ever asked, I answered. Like I tried to be the best mom role model that I could be. And at the time, like I was in a marriage and he was her stepdad. And so she got to see the dynamics of a family. And she on her own decided she didn't want to date for a while. So she didn't start having a boyfriend until I want to say she was like 17, maybe going on 18 is when she first decided. And the first boy was just, somebody that had a crush on her. And so, it just, I told her it's like kind of like learning when you're dating in school, like what kind of guys you might be into. I don't know. So I just kind of let her do that. But I got to meet them and things like that because I had to keep it hidden when I was in school. My mom wouldn't let me date. She's like, you can't even have a boyfriend. So when I dated, it was all secretive. So with her, I was like, just be open, let me know who he is. And so, I didn't have like much of an opinion, like, because I didn't really know them too well, just kind of got to know them. So I trusted her judgment. And I was like, like, just don't ever, let this happen or that happen. And she knew like my background story and about her biological dad as well. So she, wouldn't put up with something like that. Like we talked about everything. Um, and then one of her boyfriends, like we knew him as a little kid. So I really did think this was a good guy. Like he was so respectful with us, so kind, always like just very, very sweet, had a good relationship with my ex-husband. And I thought everything was fine. And so she started to hide the fact that he was like a little bit on the controlling side. He never laid a hand on her, but he just would make her feel dumb. And so, anytime she would say certain things or whatever, just the way he spoke to her, like behind closed doors, was kind of like, "Oh, I know more than you. Like, you should listen to what I have to say," kind of thing. But they were the same age. And she had more schooling than he did. So it was like, I didn't know that was going on until finally she broke up with him. And then she started to tell me, like, he really was rude to me. Like, and he would put me down. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I was oblivious to that. So she kind of went through that negative relationship, and then she decided like I'm not going to be with anybody. So she stayed single for a while, worked on herself. And then she decided to meet somebody that was a dancer that liked to dance, like she likes to dance, and has something in common. They both believe in God. Like they ended up getting together. I have two grandchildren now, and they lived with me for 2 years.
Yeah.
About 2 years with me and Gabe, and I got to see their relationship. I got to see how he was with the children when they were when the first one was born, and he was so loving. Like he's a
good dad.
really good dad, really good dad. And they just worked so well together, and they ended up saving and making money, and they do all kinds of little things to make money and so that they can be at home with the children. And now they're renting a house in Plano, Texas. And it has a swimming pool and a hot tub. So we were there yesterday.
Nice.
So
You're living it up.
yeah, they're really doing really well. I'm proud of my daughter. She's 27. And then now I have my youngest,
Hey,
that's
8-year-old.
7, going on
Or
to
the
8. Yeah, going on to 8 years old. So I'm hoping, we can be, me and Gabe now can be a good role model. Parents for her moving into the future.
I had a very strong, positive male role model with my father. So he was one of those salt of the earth people. Taught me to respect women, taught me to respect my elders. Like he raised 5 boys. So he,
and
made
all his brothers are married.
Yeah. We're
I think, except for maybe one, but
yeah, except for one.
But they're all in happy marriages.
And he taught us well. Like he showed us and modeled for us what it's like to be a good man, a good person, a good human, all the way up until his last breath. So I carry that with me, and I try to do that I have 4 kids, so I try to teach my children very much that same model. Even though I'm no longer with my ex, we still have a good relationship, and I teach my children like, hey, learn to love yourself, learn to respect yourself. Do not allow anyone to take that power away from you. There's only one person that can do that, and that's you and God. That's it. Nothing else. And if you can carry that with you and you can always have that kind of foundation and that kind of mindset, whatever the devil throws at you, whatever comes your way, you'll get past it. You will find a way to get and move past those things. So yeah, I try to teach them that very strong foundation so that, it carries it on. I don't want to have them to have to understand what generational traumas some people pass on and carry from one to the other. It's to break the cycle sort of mindset, to teach them. You give them the tools so that when I'm no longer here, they'll understand. They'll know what that is. And they'll be able to pass that wisdom on to generations after me. And hopefully that's that's how I want my legacy to be like. So I teach that to my kids as well. I want them to be very, very cognizant of that. So that's how I.
Yes, sir. You want my take on all that? Well, yeah. Well, I have a daughter. Yes, I've got a 31-year-old son and a 28-year-old daughter. I don't maybe look like it, but I started young with my children as well. But with regards to just the way I was brought up too, is the fact that I grew up in a split household where I lived with my mom and stepdad. My stepdad was wonderful. I literally lived with him since I was two until I moved out, obviously for college and stuff. But very, my parents were very, I call them parents, I called him dad too, but my parents were very like outgoing and just kind of like, be yourself, do your thing. And I learned some things from my dad, mostly like, classic cars and, different things, parties, because they had some house parties, of course. But I didn't get a lot of the support. In other words, I never got the talk, about sex or anything like that. So I basically kind of grew up figuring things out on my own and thinking for myself. And so fast forward to now, I have, with my children, I kind of just let them kind of make their own mistakes and learn from it. Learn from them, of course. Know the difference between right and wrong. That was a huge one for me. Respect everybody. That was another huge one for me. But other than that, I really didn't give them a lot of direction. I kind of let them experience life, and I like to see how they dealt with failures and things like that, because that's their way of learning really what how to deal with things like that. Because you're gonna obviously as an adult you're gonna have lots of issues and things that pop in your life that you weren't expecting, and you kind of have to understand how to deal with those kind of things. And I think that's learned from an early age. But with regards to my daughter, she did have a few long-term relationships. I didn't get too much involved. Yes, I wanted to meet the boy and everything, or the boys, but I never really got deep into relationships and kind of, again, let her kind of deal with some things. If she ever came to me, clearly I would help her, but I think I kind of let her do her own thing. And she's engaged now with an amazing man. His name is Dylan. He actually played baseball for Flagler, which is a really exclusive college down in St. Augustine, just 45 minutes south of here in Jacksonville Beach. But Dylan's a great kid. They've been together for a long time. Got engaged. He actually asked me, my permission. Did everything right as a young man should, and very respectful and biblical and all that. And so he's awesome. The guy before Dylan, there was a big break because she didn't want to date anybody at that point because of the way she was. The relationship ended. We were in Australia visiting my son Mason, who spent a year over there. And on our way back, it was my daughter and me, because we live in Florida. My mom and sister came as well, but they were up in Washington State, Spokane. And so my daughter and I get on the flight to head home. It's like a 28-hour trip, long day. And she looks at her phone, and I can kind of see something in her eyes. And I'm like, "You okay?" And she goes, I can't even remember the kid's name. She goes, Matthew, will say. I think it actually was Matthew. Matthew just broke up with me. And I'm like, what? Like, that is crazy. We have a 28-hour flight back home to Florida. And your boyfriend just broke up with you. And it turns out he was with another girl and all this jazz. So she was heartbroken at that point. But I'm so glad and thankful that God put Dylan in her life. I'm very happy they're getting married in Pittsburgh. His family's from Pittsburgh, but they're getting married up there on August 15th. So a few months away, and I'm excited. My first child getting married, so I'm very pumped for that. Thank you.
I don't know about y'all, but I mean, this has been an awesome experience tonight. I mean, and it's just going to get better and better. And we're actually creating the lives that we want through this Bible study. So, I mean, this is something special. Now, I want to give you something to take away and actually work on between now and the next session on next Tuesday. So you're actually going to write a declaration for yourself that you want to see happen between now and December the 8th. So there's actually 8 things that you're going to write in this declaration. And what I want you to do is you're going to start by writing, for an example, on the 17th day of June, 2026, I declare from this day forward, I will use my supernatural ability given to me by God to create the desired outcome that I hold in my heart and awareness. This is just my example, y'all. The following 8 things that I desire to happen from now through the end of the year are listed below, and then you can put in detail those 8 things. So why the number 8? Because in the Bible, the number 8 represents new beginnings. So this is going to be an actual new beginning in your life, especially if it has anything to do with a future husband or a wife. You're creating a new life from that standpoint. So yes, 8 things in detail. If it has anything to do with a future mate, it's my suggestion that you're as detail oriented about that as you possibly can be. All the physical qualities that you like in that person, and all the emotional qualities that you would like to see happen, as well as future goals and core values. All of those things are important as well. If it's anything material, we don't have any problem with that. But I think, most people have a problem when it comes to listing personal characteristics of a person that we want to actually see ourselves connected to. So still, it doesn't matter what those qualities are. God wants you to have what you want and also what you need. So, be as detailed as you possibly can. And we will reflect on that list next week on Tuesday, 7 Central, 8 Eastern. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful rest of your week. God bless you. And we will see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.